Hey, what is going on, guys? XpertFusion here, and I have a huge series planned for this channel that's going to go on for a couple of months leading up to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4's release, which should be in November. I'm going to be doing a full review for every single Call of Duty, from Call of Duty 4 all the way up to Black Ops 4, so all 12 of those games. Modern Warfare Remastered is basically the same as COD 4, so when it comes to this review, I'm talking about both titles. I'm not going to be doing the first three Call of Duties for a number of reasons. They don't really have enough content or enough stuff that I want to even talk about. Haven't played them in ages, so I wouldn't really have a good opinion on them. But what the series is going to entail of is my opinions and overall outlook on the entire game, including the campaign, the multiplayer, and whatever third mode it has, as well as, the community around that time, how people enjoyed it then, how people enjoy it now, how it's looked at now, how I look at it now, how I looked at it then, and talking about all of that good stuff, and giving you guys a full rating, a score out of 100 that I would give this Call of Duty game, and also just an overall word or phrase to kind of, I guess, determine what I feel like this game is. Now, this is going to be kind of similar to maybe Actman, if you've ever seen the Actman, his Call of Duty reviews, kind of similar in structure to that as I go through each mode, talk about the pros and cons of each mode, and then give a final verdict. Similar to that, but personally, I think his reviews are great, they're fantastic, but I just disagree with a lot of what he says. And also, I feel like a lot of his videos, he tends to kind of be not informed on everything in the game, because he focuses on everything, right? But when I watched his reviews, I watched each and every one of them, he seems to be much more of a campaign guy and definitely more of a multiplayer guy than he is for zombies. So when it comes to the games that have zombies in it, he doesn't have a full outlook on the whole game because he doesn't really have much knowledge on certain modes. And sometimes some CODs, he doesn't even have much knowledge on the multiplayer itself, and you can tell by some of the stuff he says. And also, he just probably plays the game for the first month and then doesn't really play it after that, so his review isn't final. This is a review of the full game, the DLC, all the updates that came after it, how the game plays to this day in terms of updates. Now, obviously, I'll keep in mind, the game, how old it is, so that might cause problems. That might be why the game has more glitches than others. Going to keep that all in mind, and I'm not going to give a game a lower score just because it has bad graphics or bad, glitches and such. But if it's a broken game, if it was remastered in its same state, just improved graphics and no glitches, it still will be, judged off of that, of course. I personally feel like I'm very well informed on every Call of Duty, from Call of Duty 4 to Black Ops 4. I played a shit ton of each and every one of them. I have played countless hours. I played each of the campaigns over and over. I played the multiplayer for a lot of times. I played the third mode in each and every game, including zombies. I've done just about every zombies Easter egg. Not every one, but the majority of them. Played every map, of course. Therefore, I have a good outlook on it. And before these reviews, I'm playing a lot of the game before I do the review, just so I can have a good outlook. Because I literally just spent the past 2 weeks non-stop playing Call of Duty 4 and Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered, just non-stop. I replayed the campaign, I've been playing the Mile High Club mission, I've been playing multiplayer non-stop, all the different modes, and it gives my review more weight, I guess you could say, to it, right? And that's what I love about it. And I've been playing Call of Duty for a long time. I've been playing since 2006. Call of Duty 3 was my first game. So I'm a veteran when it comes to COD. That's why I feel like my opinion is very, very valid when it comes to discussing what Call of Duties are good and what ones are bad. Nostalgia blindfolds off. This is going to try to be as objective as possible, not putting, personal experiences into perspective. I might bring them up, of course, but I'm not going to try to rate the game off of personal experiences, just off of how the game is and how it holds up today. So, starting off with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, let's get into this, starting with the campaign. The campaign in Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare was phenomenal. That's really the best way I can put it. It was really, really good. I'm going to be honest though, it wasn't my favorite. There are some things about it that I think could have been better. There are some things about it I don't think were amazing, and it's why it's not better than stuff like Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, or even the 2 Black Ops campaigns, the first 2. I don't think it's better than those ones. I do think it's better than a lot of the newer campaigns. One thing I will agree with people is that the campaigns have gotten collectively worse and worse as the series went on, but there has been some gems here and there. Like, personally, I think World War II and IW's campaigns were pretty damn good. I think the games themselves have gotten better in terms of quality, just not the campaigns is what I'm trying to say. But this campaign was nothing short of incredible, like I said, even if it wasn't the best we've ever seen in the franchise. And I'm going to discuss the pros and cons of the campaign right now, starting off with one of my favorite things about the game, which is the soundtrack. The soundtrack is amazing. There's just no other way to put it. Stephen Barton and Hasty Grayson Williams are like the two main composers for this game. They did a fantastic job. I'm going to be honest though, in the original Call of Duty 4, some of these soundtracks weren't really easy to hear because the sound design wasn't as good. But Remastered really did solidify a brand new feel for Call of Duty 4 to me, and that's why I think it's so much more enjoyable for me now than it was back then. Because back then, yeah, it was really innovative for its time, but then when you kept playing it as years went on, and we kept getting new CODs like MW2, MW3, Black Ops 1, Black Ops 2, you were realizing it's not all that great. But then Modern Warfare Remastered came out and completely just brought in new life to the game, and that's why I really hope they keep remastering other Call of Duties, because I feel like they can do the same. Other great things about the campaign, you had some fantastic and iconic missions like All Gillied Up, for example. All Gillied Up goes down in history as a top 10 campaign mission for sure. The campaign's epic. I love the story behind it. I love how it's focusing on events that could happen in real life, and it feels really real for that reason, even if some of the characters don't really have much to do. And that kind of will go into my con category. I'm not a big fan of the characters themselves. Don't get me wrong, Price and Soap are fantastic, but they weren't fantastic in this game. They don't really do much. We didn't really know much about them until Modern Warfare 2 and Modern Warfare 3, which gave Price and Soap fantastic arcs and fantastic characterization. They don't really have that in this game, so that kind of fell short for me. The game was just fun too. It's the modern feel that makes it fun. It feels like you're fighting as a soldier on the front lines in a modern war, and that is fantastic. I liked a lot of the things that were going on in it too, like knowing exactly what was happening in the war. Like I said, it felt like it could happen in real life. And the whole Chernobyl aspect of it, the fact that they were using radiation from Chernobyl for like the nuclear bombs and stuff, was very interesting. And then we get to see the flashback mission, of course, which is All Gillied Up, and we can go back and see it all in all its glory. Those are the pros. The cons are still there, though. Like I said, the characterization isn't that great. I feel like a lot of the missions take place in similar locations to one another, and it kind of just drives me nuts because there's at least 6 or 7 missions that are all just in the same looking forest or the same looking woods area. Like, there's not a lot of different unique areas that you get to go to in this campaign, because for this time, like I said, it was great. But when you look into the future of Call of Duty, there's just so many awesome unique locations they visited, and we didn't get to see that much in this game. Not really. The game was also kind of short. Like, there's a lot of missions, yeah, but the missions themselves, each of them are like 10 to 15, 10 to 20 minutes a piece. So, and I literally just replayed it. I literally replayed all the missions like in the past 2 days, and it didn't take me that long. Maybe it took me like 4 to 5 hours. It's not that long. We've seen much longer Call of Duty campaigns in future. Actually, probably even less than 4 to 5 hours. Probably like 3.5 maybe, depending on how good you are at it. If you complete it fast, if you play it on veteran, it's probably gonna take you a while. But of course, there's been a lot of campaigns in the future that have been a lot longer, and to me, a shorter campaign is kind of an issue. But it's in its own right. This campaign is still, like I said, phenomenal. And since I'm giving every single little portion of this game a kind of number to base itself off of, so I can get a final score out of 100 in the end, campaign is going to account for 30% of that. So that means I'm going to give it a score out of 30. I'm going to be giving multiplayer a score out of 60, and I'm going to be giving the arcade mode, or of course the Mile High Club mission a out of 10 score. Campaign is going to get a 25 out of 30 score, which is pretty damn good. Like I said, it's not up there with being a perfectionist Call of Duty. It's not perfect. It's not a masterpiece for the campaign, but it's still fantastic and definitely deserves to be praised as what it is. And it's beautiful. And next up, we have the multiplayer. I'm gonna be real with you guys. I didn't love it back in 2007 with Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare, but when Modern Warfare Remastered came out, this game's multiplayer just made me fall in love with it. Remastered did a lot of awesome things. I know they also did a few things here and there that a lot of fans weren't too happy with, but personally, I think overall, they did more good than bad with the mode and ended up making the multiplayer of Modern Warfare Remastered or Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare a lot better. In terms of the multiplayer, first of all, it was very innovative. It was the first Call of Duty to have an actual create a class system. It had a good progression system. It was first COD to introduce kill streaks that actually rewarded you for staying alive long and getting kills. All those things are huge for Call of Duty's future. That is the basis of every single future COD after this. So this game was already in its own right huge for the franchise. Massive. The modern theme of the game is something that I take for granted because when you think about it, we've only had like 4 modern Call of Duties. Like you've had the Modern Warfare series, and then Ghosts was kind of modern. That's about it, unless you consider Black Ops 2 or Black Ops 4 modern, which are not really modern. They're more in the future. So the modern theme of this game is definitely something I feel like deserves to be praised because it's unique to this game. It's unique to a few of these titles that they have, right? There's a few gem maps. Now I'm also going to talk about in the con category, there's a few trash maps as well. A lot of people say the map design in this game is really good, but it can be really good or it can be really bad. I think Crash, Shipment, Strike, Bog, Backlot, and Overgrown are solid examples of good map designs. They play well, they look like good, they look like they're entertaining maps to play on because they look nice. That's also, a big factor to maps in my opinion. There's a lot of wonderful guns like the M16, the AK-47, the AK-74U, the MP5. The gun balance definitely wasn't the best though. You had stuff like the M16 that was way too overpowered and kind of caused a lot of issues in balance. People were using that more than anything else in the game. Certain weapons were just kind of underutilized because they weren't that useful, like LMGs. And there's a couple, weapons here and there that just don't really have much of use, like the MP44. Customization and supply drops. Now, these are something that are kind of only to Modern Warfare Remastered. Call of Duty 4 wasn't the same with this because it didn't have this. But I really do appreciate Modern Warfare Remastered for introducing customization in terms of character, in terms of the weapon kits, and in terms of your camos. Because previously we had like a 4 or 5 camos in COD 4, right? No character customization, no weapon kits. COD Remastered though, COD 4 Remastered, introduced all that. Now I know you have to get them out of supply drops, but the fact that they had the salvage system where you can just get parts from supply drops, so you weren't really you were guaranteed something in the future. It wasn't 100% based on luck, even though a little bit of luck was involved. It was definitely a better system than previous games like Black Ops, 3 or Advanced Warfare. It definitely did a lot more for the series, and it definitely was more enjoyable. It could have been a lot better if it had something like contracts that allows you to earn credits through challenges. That would have been awesome, or maybe giving you daily rewards like Infinite Warfare did or like World War II did. That would have been cool too, but it was kind of unfortunate that it wasn't really that way. It did take you a while to earn what you wanted, but you would still guaranteed to get what you wanted eventually just by crafting it with salvage, and that included, like I said, weapon kits, character customization, and camos, which is something I really appreciated. The new guns also brought a lot of light into this game, because one of my major complaints with COD 4 was there was definitely a lack of content. There wasn't that many guns to use. I mean, hell, you only had 2 shotguns. The introduction of DLC guns in this game really brought to life more stuff to do and therefore more weapons to play with. And it didn't feel like you were just replaying a game you played 10 years ago. It felt like you were playing the game you played 10 years ago, but with a new expansion pack. And that is why I appreciate Modern Warfare Remastered so much, is because it doesn't feel like a new game. It just feels like they took Call of Duty 4 and added on an expansion pack with a bunch of new stuff. Now, yes, to earn these weapons, sometimes it could be a little tricky, but you can get them eventually. It is guaranteed eventually because of the crafting system that the game introduced, which I really appreciate. Gotta say, though, the unbalanced nature of this game definitely gets to me more than it probably should. The perk system, I'm not a fan of. I mean, look at the perks. Perk 2, you have Juggernaut and Stopping Power. Why would you use anything else other than those two? Your perk 3, you have Steady Aim, which is really the only one that's useful, and that's perk 3. And then perk 1's got just weird stuff. I mean, I don't know why perks would have equipment in it. I didn't like that at all. Definitely wasn't as bad as Death Streaks from Modern Warfare 2, though. Let's not even get started on that. Some of the maps were kind of garbage, like Block, District, Crossfire, Countdown. Even a few of the DLC maps I wasn't a fan of. You only had one DLC pack, though, and that was, of course, with Chinatown, Broadcast, Creek, as well as Kill House, which I wasn't a big fan of most of those maps, for sure. And this is not really a big complaint. I don't personally care that much, but I could see why people might care. All the maps in this game, and I mean like every single one of them, is just copied and pasted from a campaign mission. I mean, replaying the campaign, you realize that you walk into every single multiplayer map in this entire game. Like, they're all in there, other than maybe like one or two. Not everyone, but the majority of them are just taken from campaign missions. Now, they've done this in future CODs, yes, but not to the extreme of this game. In the future CODs, they usually take similar locations, but they change it around and make it feel like it fits in Call of Duty multiplayer. But this game, they just straight up took them from it. And it almost feels like this multiplayer wasn't meant to be a big thing. It was meant to be just an additional portion of the game added on to the campaign. But obviously, people played the multiplayer a lot more, so that's why they started caring about the multiplayer a lot more in future years. And now we're at a point in COD's history where multiplayer is way more important than campaign when it comes to marketing and even just inclusion in the game. Like, look at Black Ops 4, not even including a campaign and having a bigger emphasis on multiplayer, which I'm not surprised about because of how much more people enjoy and play multiplayer than they do campaign, even if there's a big portion of the community that really enjoys the campaigns, and I do too. But it just does not have the same replay value and enjoyment that multiplayer has. Multiplayer, of course, like I said, is going to be ranked out of 60 points. I'm going to be giving it a score of 45 out of 60 points, which is pretty damn good if you ask me. 45 out of 60 is pretty good. It's not perfect, like I said, but it's still a good score. It's still a well-rounded ranking for this game because, like I said, it's really fun, it's really enjoyable, but without the nostalgia blindfolds on of all the memories I had in the game, you have to look at it from a objective point of view. It's got some great stuff, and I think the remaster definitely improved it. If we were just talking about Call of Duty 4, I'd probably be giving it like a 37 or something, or a 38 out of 60. But the wonderful Modern Warfare Remastered definitely made it more enjoyable to me. And definitely the graphics and the no more glitches and all that, that's also amazing as well. It deserves 45 out of 60, which is a pretty good score. So that gets into the last portion of this game, of course, which is the arcade mode, as well as the Mile High Club mission. So I'm just going to be straight up honest with you guys. Not a fan of this third game mode. Now, to be fair, it's the oldest Call of Duty out of the next generation, I guess you want to call it, of CODs, which it's not really the next generation. I guess the next generation would be the Ghost, but the next generation for that time period is what I'm trying to say. To be fair, we haven't seen stuff like zombies yet. We haven't seen stuff like what they can do with Spec Ops and Extinction. But of all the third modes, this is obviously the weakest. They have the arcade mode where you can go back and time yourself on all the other missions, which is cool, but it's like, nah, it's just speedrunning them. It's not all that interesting. Mile High Club, ton of fun. It's a really fun mission to play, but like I said, there's no replay value here. There really isn't. It's just one mission where you can try to get a better time and just keep trying to do that. I didn't want to count it as a third mode. I really didn't. I just wanted this to be like a part of the campaign, sort of. But I've seen a lot of people consider a third mode, and since every other COD has a third mode after this game in some sort, I thought, nah, I have to include it. So yeah, it's out of 10 points, and I'm gonna give it 3 out of 10. Yeah, that's what I'm giving it. Not really much to say. I mean, like I said, it could be kind of fun sometimes, and I think Spec Ops definitely made this a lot more enjoyable. It's still not all that great, though. I'm not a big fan of Spec Ops, honestly, but it's still better than nothing, I guess. That's why I'm giving it a 3 out of 10 rather than a 0 out of 10, because it's better than nothing, like I said. So yeah, that is the arcade mode. So for all these Call of Duty reviews I will be doing for all the COD games, I'm going to kind of finish it off with a final verdict to end the video. This one's going to be a little bit shorter than most COD games because COD 4 doesn't really have that much to talk about. When I get into later CODs, you have the microtransaction system to talk about, you have all sorts of DLC, you have the zombies modes for most of the games, a lot more to go in depth on. COD 4 is kind of more of a simpler COD, there's really not as much to it. And that does kind of bring down the quality a little bit, but not a lot. Trust me, I'm not, tanking on this game. The final verdict, taking the scoring of all 3 of the modes, this game gets a 73 out of 100 score. So that is a 73%, which isn't bad at all. That's why I'm giving this, phrasing of this game good enough, because 73% is good enough for this game. It was such an old game. And even though it got remastered, they kept it simple to its values. They kept it how it was, just adding in new content to make it more fresh and replayable for, people who either have played in the past or people who have never played it at all, just to give them more content to play with. And I really do appreciate that. Call of Duty 4 will be, in my eyes, as one of the most innovative CODs of all time, and definitely one of the most influential for most people. I mean, this is a lot of people's first COD, which you'd be surprised actually how many people have played this COD for their first one. Usually it's also MW2, Black Ops 1, there's usually other ones that people say is their first one, but COD 4 was definitely that game because it was one of the only modern shooters out there. There was a bunch of World War II shooters around this time, and it was one of the only games, other than Battlefield did kind of, do a little bit of the modern era before this, but Call of Duty was definitely brave to step into that modern era since it never did it before, and I'm really glad they did because they really did some really awesome stuff with the campaign mode. And the multiplayer, like I said, a lot of balance issues, but it still was fun and replayable, and I'm really proud of Modern Warfare Remastered bringing this game back to life with new content and new game modes like Slasher, Prop Hunt, and all that fun stuff that you can just hop on and have a good time. Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare / Modern Warfare Remastered gets a 73 out of 100, and it deserves the title good enough. Let me know your rating of this game in the comment section below, and tell me, are you excited for the rest of the series? If you are, let me know. Leave a like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and see you guys in my next one. Peace out.